Good afternoon. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. I hope that I am at the comply with your expectations. I'm going to talk to you about INAP and INAP's experience. The development of green hydrogen derived in the area of Magallanes. I am normally in Punta Arenas supporting this activity. And what it is meaning or what it is signifying as far as habilitating the infrastructure or making the infrastructure implemented. ENAP in the year 2019, it signed its first agreement for green hydrogen. Our idea was simply to help to see what could happen. And slowly we realized that this industry had a huge potential, great dynamics within Magallanes, and ENAP was a very relevant player, logistically speaking, and we began working more intensively with these different projects, and took me in particular in June of 2020 to move to Punta Arenas, which is where I currently live now for 2 years. So for us, the interaction with projects is based on seeking synergies to do a joint work so that the development and concept of each one of these projects can interact with our existing infrastructure, and from then on to be able to achieve various things. One, optimize investments, associated investments, which is what we're seeking, as was mentioned by the roadmap of green energy presented by the Ministry of Energy by 2030. And one of them is $1 per kilogram of hydrogen production. So optimizing investments would allow us to reach that objective. Now, on the other hand, to use existing infrastructure today, maritime infrastructure would allow projects to reduce their deadlines and their terms to be able to reach their customers. A creation of a new port in this area would be 5 to 6 years. Using and optimizing and reconfiguring what we have in place now would reduce the terms and would allow us to have a product in the market as soon as possible, understanding that on the roadmap, as I was saying, there is a 2030 um, race and who arrives better positioned, and our country seeks to have a relevant world role. Now, as far as ANAP is concerned, the dynamic background of this has to do with active values where we had dead times, let's say, and to be able to utilize those spaces to enter this new industry and define our positioning, both in terms of infrastructure availability and the future of products that we have has to migrate in time. Will have to go hand in hand, as was said in the previous presentations, responding to industrial objectives in the reduction of CO2. So what we have carried out is that there is a relevant role of this region to integrate different developments. Why did we want to integrate them? If possible, it would allow us to reduce community future impacts in the region of Magallanes. The most important and relevant topic and of greatest concern is the environmental impact this kind of development is going to produce in an area that, as many of you, all of us, or many of us know, is very well known given its tourism and the enormous amount of nature in the region. So, where we saw we could interact, or we would have availability of infrastructure, and we have an advantage. And we want to keep that advantage in time and support the different developments. So what do we expect to achieve, and what do you think we are trying to achieve with time, not only in solitary but jointly, to earn experience with future opportunities? This value chain of each one of these products, there's an implementation of technology which allows us to learn and participate in these projects when they're operational, earning experience, improve our knowledge in processes. In the case of ammonia, most of the projects today in Magallanes is based on ammonia. There's a great deal to discuss, to integrate, and how do we develop the infrastructure in order to make it into an energy vector, which of course is ammonia. As an app, we want to access new income, new business through this new industry, and to have certain participation both in equity and offtake of these products in a portfolio change or complementation, complementary to our future portfolio. As an institution and company, we want to prepare the company for energy transformation and position ourselves in this market. Now, as we stated previously, as the main role and an important role player in the industry, we are working actively to seek integration of projects around our infrastructure and integration based on important aspects which refers to storage and land transportation of these products. What we don't want, and no single project seeks that, is to have one port per one duct per product and a great deal of storage infrastructure throughout the region. And what we will try is to try to design hubs where we can have this kind of enabling infrastructure, um, port-based, and what we can do in the future. Now, this is a very simple image. On the dots in yellow, Puerto Sara and so on, and Percy and Clarencia, we have infrastructure which would respond to this industry, and we will work jointly with the projects. And the green circles are massive projects, if you will. It has electrolyzers, sizes. We can see that, for example, in San Gregorio, there's a high concentration of projects. Today, I would say that at least 5 of them. And to the left, you can see Laguna Blanca. There's a occurrence of new projects. And then towards the Bahia of Posesión, and in the island of Tierra del Fuego, there's about 3 or 4 projects that will have a relevant interaction in Bahia Gente Grande. To be able to develop this work, we have signed collaboration and confidentiality agreements with more than 15,000 kilowatts with different equivalents. There are projects that we're working with, I would say 80% of the developers in the region. So it gives us a good general and broad view of what's taking place. And beyond that, we can relate to these projects and have an integrative role, not only to interact with the authorities, of course, with the territorial plans and the developments that need to take place in the region, but also reduce environmental impact and a closer relationship with the communities. An example, maybe I'm going too fast, an example of what we're doing or we expect to do. For example, today, one of the critical areas in the region is providing equipment for the generators and machinery, industrial machinery for these projects, the entrance of these products. So what we're doing in one of our facilities, which is Espigón de Laredo, which is about 20 kilometers north of Punta Arenas, it is part of an industrial complex where we have all the different Cabo Negro location and the production of methanol, or methane, sorry. What we're doing is reconfiguring this point in order to provide the input location for the industrial entrance of machinery for the first stages. One of the things we're doing here in the first stage is have an area of 15 hectares, which would allow for logistical ocean land strategy, which would be like a logistic uh, lung for this area, would provide delicate or hazardous material areas. We have services, electricity, water, gas. It is an active industrial area. So we're not impacting new zones for environmental aspects in the region. We're utilizing something that is already in place. And this area, as you can see, uh, it has a direct link to Route 9. It is a pier or breakwater area. It is about 20 kilometers, so the impact should be much lower than having a new logistics in the northern area of Punta Arenas. We're working here with 3 developers so that we can find a solution that will allow the entrance of equipment and incorporate in the research an alternative and solution that is in place today and will facilitate the environmental approval conditions for this stage. Now, in terms of challenges to arrive, to be on time in that which relates to this development, there's a great deal of development, but we have to be on time. As has been stated, we have to start discussing and we have to start doing. Certainly, what we believe is important is to work in reducing impact. And if we estimate this and we think about all the territorial plans that need to be developed in the region and the progress that some of these projects already have, we have a 2-year gap, 1.5 to 2 years. If everything goes as expected, the projects will begin their construction and will still have 2 years for these territorial plans to be in their optimum stage. On the other hand, we need to understand each other's needs, both the authorities and the projects. We already talked about the Farol Sur. They're both right, or none of them were right. There, we needed to understand and reach agreement so that they could facilitate development, because we understand that this development is positive for the region, but we have to understand the environmental impact that this will generate in general, and it will be translated into various areas and variables that we're going to have to discuss for the region. Now, on the other hand, we have to carry out or develop the logistic definitions. We don't only need to talk about ports here. We need to review transportation that's done of the product within the region. I insist we're going to be transporting ammonia in large volumes, in large quantities. If that's the solution, we have alternative solutions. We need to store this somewhere. And what we hope that the storage will be designed in the form of a hub where we have tank concentrations, where we will not have tanks particularly on the coast of the island. And what we seek And we understand that we're doing hand in hand with the developer, with the authorities and developers to work the Corfo Transforma program, where all the different agents are participating. Everyone that has a voice here in a very fluid, very close relationship with the regional authorities. We're analyzing different topics, and with each one of the regional authorities, we have open discussions, and we are trying to come closer to finding a coordination and collaboration to make these projects a reality with reasonable impacts from the standpoint of everyone, considering the dimension of this new industry that will be installed in the region. That's the extent of my talk.